What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Tim, back with another video. Out just taking a walk on the beach here, but I wanted to turn the camera on, do a little walk and talk, and I wanted to do a sobriety video. It has been a while since I talked about sobriety, but I've been getting a lot of good comments and responses and feedback from the videos I did in the past. So I wanted to do a new one because this is a topic I feel very strongly about. And today I wanted to talk about the fact that sobriety is very hard, but it's not impossible. Okay? One of the things I can remember in my struggle to finally get sober for any length of time was that there were some times where it just felt impossible. You know, I'd stop drinking for a couple days, then I'd drink again. You know, I'd stop drinking for a week, then I would start drinking again. You know, and it was just this endless cycle. And there were days when it felt impossible. It's like I can stop for a little bit, but as far as stopping drinking forever, as far as that goes, I just don't know if I got that in me. You know, I wanted that, I hungered for that. Especially, you know, when I woke up hungover after a crazy night of drinking and I blacked out or almost got in a fight, you know, laying in bed that whole Saturday morning, all I wanted was for this to be behind me. I wanted it to be done. I wanted it to be over. But as hard as I tried, I couldn't seem to make that happen. And that was why a lot of times I would just kind of give up. And I'm like, at least when I'm drinking, you know, I don't have all the guilt and, you know, I'm just not like setting myself up for failure 3-4 times a month. At least when I'm drinking, I just drink, I have my fun, I deal with the consequences. I just didn't think it was possible for me to quit drinking. But here's something I've realized on the other side of the equation. Now that it's been 5+ years since I've had a drink, I realized, and this isn't something I would have wanted to hear during that time, but I realized that like you get sober when it's your time to get sober. I believe this, but I feel like all the time in between when you first say, I'm gonna stop drinking until you finally do get sober, I think all that is like work that has to be done so we can finally get to the place where it's possible. So it might have been impossible for me in the beginning stages. Those times when it felt impossible, it might have been impossible at that time. But I had to put in that work, all those little 2-3 days, all those little weeks, the months of sobriety that, you know, I relapsed. I had to put in all that work for it to finally be possible when it was, okay? I kind of, I'm not crying, folks. I'm passionate about this, but I'm not crying. The wind is blowing, the wind is blowing, so it's making my eyes water. But I look at it this way. Let's just say, I like to look at it like very logically, math-based, okay? Let's just say it is gonna take, because I believe that like you're reprogramming your brain. When you're addicted to something, I think a big part of like getting sober, getting off of it, besides the physical, is also the mental. So like, I think we have to reprogram our brains to not like prompt us as much or feel like we have to have that drink, you know? For I don't know how many years, every night I got drunk. So my brain, my mind is like every night we get drunk. So it took a while for me to reprogram my brain to say, oh, we don't drink all the time. Maybe we don't have to drink all the time. Oh, we're not even drinking that much. Eventually it got to the point where like, now there's no prompting to drink because I've reprogrammed my mind. Now, let's just say it took 600 days of me not drinking to get my mind to a place where it was like, oh, we don't really need to do this drinking thing, right? And those 600 days don't have to be 600 days straight. You know, I like to look at it this way. Say every time I didn't drink, whether it was 1 day or 2 days or 1 week or 2 weeks or a month, every day added to that 600-day total, you know? So maybe I needed total 600 days before I could get to a place where sobriety was possible, total sobriety was possible. And every time I didn't drink, it added to that day. If you look at it that way, then you realize that like every time you don't drink is a win. If I don't drink 3 days today, that takes 3 days off that 600. Now I'm down to 597. If I don't drink for a month, that takes 30 days off. Now I'm down to 567. You know what I mean? If we look at it that way, if we look at it as like every time we don't take a drink, we're taking off some of the time that it's gonna take us to eventually get sober, then it's not like oh, I'm a failure. I can't stay sober. Every relapse is not starting over. A lot of times we look at every relapse as starting over, but it's like, no, every time you don't drink, you're growing. That's taking you a step closer to the day when it is possible. Okay? Like when it comes to sobriety, we don't think about it as a learning experience, as we have to reprogram our brain. We have to learn sobriety. We look at it as, I want to be done, so I'm going to be done, and I should be able to just quit right now. Not realizing that we're the ones who taught our body and our mind to want alcohol. We have to teach it to want sobriety now, And there's certain times we haven't grown enough. Okay? I mean, when we were 5 years old, okay, we couldn't go out there and play basketball with the high school kids. We were too small. We had some growing to do. Fast forward 10 years later, you can go play with the high school kids, right? Because you're 15 now. You've grown. That's kind of an analogy I think sometimes for our sobriety. It might take you 3-4 years of struggle to finally get sober, but that was 3-4 years of struggling and growth you had to go through. 4 years ago, you wasn't at the place you could do it. You hadn't learned enough, You hadn't grown enough in your sobriety journey. But sometimes, in all aspects of life, not just sobriety, not just when it comes to addiction, but in all aspects of life, there are certain things we want to do, but we have to work towards them. We have to learn, we have to grow. We got to get the experience. We got to put the time in, You may have goals and dreams. At 5 years old, you was like, oh, I'm going to be on the varsity squad on that high school team. But you got to put in the work. You got to take the steps. When it comes to sobriety, it's like we don't want to take the steps. For some reason we think, and I think it's because so many people talk about how they quit cold turkey, but no one ever tells you about the years before that they were struggling too. That's why I don't like that term cold turkey. Because it makes you think, oh, I should just have the willpower, which is another term that I don't like, because there is no such thing as willpower. This is how I'll prove that real quick. Okay, if I don't have the willpower, how do I get willpower? Oh, you just have to dig deep and want to do it. Well, if I don't naturally have that, how do I get that? You know what I mean? People can't define what willpower is, and they can't tell you how to get it, so I don't think it exists. But so many people say, oh, you just need to have the willpower. You just need to quit cold turkey, But that's not how it works. Might it work like that for some people? Maybe. But they may not be as addicted as you are. We got to think about that too. They don't have the same mental and physical makeup as you. They may not be drinking for the same reasons you were drinking. They may not have gone through the same trauma you went through. But for a lot of us, we just think, oh, one day I've decided I'm not going to drink. I should be able to be sober tomorrow forever. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works, folks. You got to learn sobriety. You know what I mean? Not to mention, a lot of times we have to readjust and realign our actual life, our physical life to get sober. Because I know for me, so much of my life was drinking. I worked and then I drank. That was my life. You got to totally restructure your life sometimes, folks, when you start getting sober. You're going to have to get new friends and find new places to hang out sometimes. You're not going to do that in a day. It takes time to grow, to learn how to live a sober life. But it's not impossible. It's very hard. It's very hard, but it's not impossible. And you might be right. Right now, it might not be the time. It might be impossible right now. It might not be the time right now. But the work that is possible now, staying sober today, staying sober this weekend, going to meetings if you do that, the work you put in now, the work that is possible now is what's going to lead to total sobriety being possible in the future. But sometimes, like I said, I've been there. Sometimes the fact that we can't get totally sober right now makes us stop the work, stop the process. But you wouldn't at 8 years old be like, they wouldn't let me on the JV basketball team. I'm never playing basketball again. No, that's your goal. That's your goal, that and beyond, So you just put in the work until you get to a place where you can do that. I think that's just kind of not a message we really put out there about sobriety. I just think there's a lot of just weird messaging around sobriety, which is why I really don't get too involved in the space. I do my little videos here, But anytime I try to delve a little deeper, I just get so mad about the messaging. This whole once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic is crazy to me, you know? Like there's nothing else that people try to quit other than like alcohol and like substances, where people will be like, well, just remember, like right when you're at your lowest and you're really trying to fight, people want to come along and say, oh, just remember, you're always going to have to deal with that. You're always going to have to deal with this. So come on, like why, even if that was true, why would you say it? It's just crazy. There's just so much weird. That's just the one that really gets me. There's so much weird messaging around sobriety. Now, what you do is you keep quitting until you finally quit. And that may take a while. It's very hard. It won't be enjoyable, you know, but that is the price we pay for becoming addicted. You know, you get no pity parties from me for the struggle I had to go through, because I'm the one who turned myself into a drunk. Didn't nobody make me drink. Now, if you were born addicted to a substance or something, whatever, you know, not judging anybody. But like, we're the ones who put ourselves in this position. 99% of us, no one forced us to take a drink. We started drinking and we kept drinking for whatever our reasons were. No judgment there, but just know the price we pay for that behavior is a long, hard struggle back, but it is a winnable struggle. If we keep struggling, if we put in the work, if we keep working the process, the day will come. And it might be a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, but the day will come when you're like, I think I got it this time. And it's not, I know for me, like, it just clicked, you know what I mean? Like, it just clicked. I didn't do anything really different than I was doing before, but it was just kind of like, all right, I got it this time. And I think I had just done the reps. You know, I had put in the work to where finally my mind, my body was kind of reprogrammed, and it had learned sobriety. And it was like, all right, I think we can do it this time. Okay. And like I said, it's been 5+ years. Once again, just to refute that one, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Very rarely do I ever get any urges to drink these days. Very rarely. So, and I know that differs from person to person, but just know, I want to say this before I close out, just know that the urges you have now and the fight you have to fight now, how hard it is, it will probably not always be that way. I've talked to no one who says that their urges to drink now, after they've been sober for some years, are just as bad as they were on day 3 when they started their sobriety. It lessens over time because you're changing. You're growing in this thing called sobriety. You know, the withdrawals go away. The mental longings go away. It gets easier. So please don't think to like, oh man, this struggle I'm having right now is going to be this hard for the rest of my life. That is utter hogwash. Don't believe that. And please don't believe that it's impossible to get sober. It might be impossible now, but if you keep putting in the work, it will be possible one day. I firmly believe that. I love each and every one of y'all. Please, in the comments below, let's talk about this. If you agree, if you disagree, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Love y'all. Talk to y'all later.